Chris.
Heath.
Hey.
I don't have a really deep observation to dive in here, but it's October now, and I was waiting for all the fall foliage to arrive, and I wasn't seeing any. But as I was driving around this morning, suddenly it is in full bloom.
They all the textures just spawned.
Seemingly overnight. Yeah, all the fall color leaves spawned.
Mm-hmm.
Fall is the best season of the year. Agree or disagree?
Agree. Anyone who disagrees is either a scaly lizard that can't survive without the beating heat of the sun's radiation, or just a liar.
Yeah, it's just such a cozy season.
No downsides.
No downsides. It has Thanksgiving and Halloween in it.
The flavors are the best.
Yes.
The savors.
A Black Friday joke.
Like just sales.
Fun activities like apple picking can only do it
Haunted
in the fall.
hay rides.
Yes. Pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
Say more fall things. Or did we name them all?
We named all of them. Every single one.
We represented the
I'm
season.
a fall thing. I turned 27 like a day
right.
ago.
Happy birthday. I wished you a happy birthday, and then you never responded.
No, I was too.
You were partying.
I
hard.
guess so.
You partied so hard you broke your hand.
I've, since the last episode, gotten a year older and gotten my first broken bone.
Oh, it's your first.
Well, yeah.
No childhood incidents to speak of.
No, I was playing it safe until now. I fell off of a truck at work, and
now was the truck moving when you fell off?
No. Yeah, my scaphoid bone for all you bone fans, and then it's just I'm gonna do the cast for like 8 weeks, and then it'll be back to normal.
Well, I wish you a swift recovery.
But yeah, it gave me pause because I was thinking like, oh, I use my left hand for all sorts of WASDing and I played piano at one point. It gave me real my blue health is not what it used to be.
Yeah, so that begs the question, since falling off that truck, have you been able to play any kind of video game?
I had an immediate thought of, well, at least I can play 13 Sentinels because I can the dialogue auto plays. I don't know why you would use the button to choose the dialogue to advance, but that was supposed to be my perfect way to play it.
Yes.
And I haven't put any time into 13 Sentinels. I put probably like anywhere between 10 and 20 hours since we last recorded just watching Better Call Saul's final season. How much of a Breaking Bad fanboy are you?
I've watched all of Breaking Bad.
Uh-huh.
I quite enjoy it. It's not a tippy-top favorite of mine. Someday I will dive into Better Call Saul. I have not watched a single episode.
Okay. Both of those shows are quite tippy for me.
Got it.
I have to say.
Which do you prefer? Because that's a contentious question.
The better way to answer that is just by saying that I love crime. I love just watching crime. Bailey likes true crime, like things that actually happen. We also put anywhere from like 5 to 10 hours worth of that Dahmer Netflix show. Are you familiar with the Dahmer Netflix?
I am not, actually.
It has one of the worst titles of any media out there. Can you stomach this? Let me just not news. But the title goes Dahmer - Monster : the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Just total like algorithmic. This title was made by an AI for greater user engagement.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Bailey's turned on this program unprompted.
Yes.
Because she loves the true crime. I love fake crime.
You like the fic crime.
Yeah.
Fictional crime.
Yes. And so that's why I've been just sinking. I sunk like much more than... And when I was done with season 6, I just scrubbed the comments for like, oh, did you notice how this camera angle mirrors this camera angle from the other... Like just the hand washing that goes on after you watch Better Call Saul is better than the show itself. But I totally do that.
I hear they nailed the landing as well, as far as a final season finale.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it was deserved and not out of left field at all. Here, let me turn off the dehumidifier
Sure.
and turn on the humidifier.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the time allotted, I could have totally Genshin some impact, but I didn't. So, hey, I mean, we played not Gwent. Does that count as a video game?
Oh, we played Condottiere, the board game.
Yeah.
Which
you
I found
still
out
own?
It's on its way out.
Damn.
And that game lasted way too long. Oh my gosh. It was like 2 hours.
Whose fault is that? Is that ours?
I don't know who to ascribe the blame to. If only we had like a chess clock timer to see how long each person took individually, see if there's like a big outlier or something. I don't know what happened. It might have just been bad game design that it could drag so thoroughly. But yeah, just for any Gwent fans out there, apparently CD Projekt Red shamelessly ripped off this board game from the 90s called Condottiere, just lifting mechanics straight out of this tabletop game. But we played it in person, and I don't care to do that again. I'll stick to Gwent, I guess.
Would you call Gwent grand strategy?
No.
What is grand strategy?
Grand strategy. Just Google Paradox games.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'd argue Gwent is almost exclusively a tactical game. There's not really long-term planning. You're just kind of reacting in the moment to your opponent's move.
Yeah.
But grand strategy games, usually like a big map overlay. This is Hearts of Iron 4, Stellaris, Crusader Kings. Those big, grand strategy game. I'm thinking like a campaign lasts 100 hours or something.
It's duration. It's not necessarily number of units.
It's got to be the scale, and then as a necessity of how big of a scale, also a long duration.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Where a Gwent is just like a 10-minute card game battle.
Right.
Yeah. What made you ask about grand strategy?
Oh, well, it has to do with your game-defining game tastes, holistic, such and such.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you'll see.
Okay. Very cool.
So,
because we dropped the ball last episode with my abrupt exit at the end of the podcast. We didn't do the discussion topic we teased.
You became a cloud of dust.
Right. I gave all the listeners blue balls after we teased, our gaming tastes, and then didn't get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Look forward to that later this episode. But
what is this episode?
Oh, this is episode 76 of Mobius Tubes, a video game podcast, being recorded on Sunday, October 9th, 2022. We're back for another one. That's enough of a preamble, I think. Let's talk things we've been consuming.
Yeah.
I guess I'll throw in timestamps for Better Call Saul. But have you been consuming anything else, Heath? I can talk about Wildermyth if you want.
Oh, you should talk about Wildermyth.
Sure. It's a game that pretty new, came out last year. This was the turn-based tactics RPG, party-based.
Oh.
But its big call to fame, the thing that separates it from all the other genre siblings, is that it is trying to recreate the experience of sitting down at a table with friends and having a live tabletop role-playing game experience with like a dungeon master telling you a story. The game it takes the role of a very cool, talented dungeon master. You control the players, and it gives you this procedurally generated story that is oh so personalized, reacts to your decisions. Your characters have these legitimate arcs that are not pre-scripted.
They're procedural.
Yes, random events will pop up. You make story decisions. They can branch in interesting ways. It really does feel like the sky's the limit.
It really makes you feel like Batman.
It is not an authored story. It is marrying the art of storytelling, dynamic storytelling, with a video game. And
there are occasional marriages.
There are occasional marriages because your characters have dynamic relationships with one another. They can become rivals or lovers or just buds.
Like us.
Just like us. So when I last touched base on this game, last episode, I was like 6 hours into my first campaign. I now have a more holistic appreciation of the game because I have finished 2 campaigns. Not 1, but 2. I'm a little more than 20 hours in. Still impressed. The magic trick did not shatter before my eyes. as I dove deeper. Because what I was fearful of was, like, how much content is in this really? Am I going to see random events repeat? Am I going to see the same like character transformations occur in my next campaign? Will there be another party member who gets turned into a wolf? Will the repetition
The chances
start to
are
sink
not
in?
0%.
They're not 0%. But so far, the game seems pretty darn robust with its content, which keeps the illusion going that, really anything could happen. To its detriment, I think in total, across my 20 hours, I have seen 3 events repeat. What helps mitigate that is that even though I see a similar event pop up, depending on your character's personality, because there's different personality traits your characters can spawn with, and the relationships that develop between them, and the decisions you make, the same event can play out in a very different way. The characters that get featured in the event, how they feel about one another will change the kind of interactions they have during the event. Or you might just choose a different option. So instead of maybe an ambush happens, instead of rushing into the fray, you might just pick the stealthy approach, and then the battle plays out differently. So on and so forth. So even when events pop up a second time, they might have a different twist to it. So that'll keep things fresh. I did have one event play out exactly the same way, and it was a little bit of a bummer, I'll admit. It was just like, I've been here, done that. I kind of see a peek behind the curtain. I see what ultimately it's not a piece of magic software. It is just a video game. It is limited in that way. But still very much enjoying Wildermyth. The coolest thing that I now appreciate after finishing playthrough number 2, and the game comes with like half a dozen distinct campaigns you play through with their own big overarching story beats with a bunch of procedural stuff to keep them fresh. But anyway, one cool thing is the concept of you build up a legacy. So when you roll credits for the first time, all the characters you've got to know along the way, they enter this like compendium and from the main menu called your legacy. And it's this weird menu you can go into, and you see everyone's history book and what they did. And then when you start campaign number 2, at certain points throughout the story, you have the option to recruit new characters. And if you're willing to spend some extra, what are called legacy points, which you accrue in the game, you can recruit old characters from your previous campaign to rejoin your story in this new context. And there is a bit of like a canonical retconning that happens. The way it was, I heard
their hair gets all gray like Kiryu.
Kind of the opposite. They age down. So what's kind of funny, by the end of a long campaign, you've got a bunch of senile geezers like adventuring and fighting people, like a bunch of 60-year-olds.
Yeah.
Assuming they haven't already retired, because some characters will retire along the way. So you've got this nursery home of adventurers by the end of a campaign.
Nursing home.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. When you started campaign number 2, and I re-recruited my old faithful character Taldian from my first game, he was now once again a spry 25-year-old. I listened to a developer interview, and the way they described it was kind of like a new iteration of a comic book character. It's like a new version of Spider-Man. He has the same traits that you would expect Spider-Man to have, you would expect my character Taldian to have, but this is like an alternate reality.
This is Andrew Garfield.
Yes, this is now Andrew Garfield.
Although he was criticized as looking too old because he was like a 30-something trying to play a high school student.
Got it.
And that's why when Tom Holland showed up, everyone was like, haha, they learned their lesson from the Andrew Garfields.
Right. So it's funny to have my old characters I already know and love rejoin the story in a new context with a new cast of characters. That's a really fun. It's like fan service, but you're the only fan that exists of these characters because you had them. You're the only one who knows their journey.
Yeah.
It's very
fan singular service.
Yes, exactly.
You could still have like Wildermyth Jr. join the squad, like kids of past characters.
There's no mechanic where you say, yes, I'm trying to churn out children right now, but
like Janice's favorite game.
Janice's favorite gacha game. But what will happen in the interludes between chapters, which are usually this 10-year gap, sometimes character children will like randomly spawn.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, Wildermyth was my dad. And you'd be like, oh, I see it in him.
Cool. That was the coolest new thing I saw, this concept of a legacy character.
This game came out like 9 years ago.
I already told you, this came out last year.
Thank you.
It's a year old.
Wildermyth 2.
I wouldn't expect
now with
it.
oil.
I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. This game is still being consistently supported. I think it's on version 1.9. So if anyone's eager to jump in, presumably there's going to be a big stinky version 2.0 update happening pretty soon that probably throws in a whole bunch of new events and stuff. So I don't have any insider information on that, but if they got to version 1.9, you have to assume 2.0 is around the corner.
Who's like, what size of a team is Wildermyth? Are they a double cherry? Are they a yacht club?
I'm glad you asked. I did listen to a developer podcast. It's a very small team.
Yeah. It's like an Among Us 3 people.
It's around 4 people around there. And one cool, interesting tidbit is that they come from a casual game background.
Ew.
Like Facebook games, that kind of thing.
Ew.
Which, we're not the biggest fans of. But they mentioned a couple ways that it was important to them to make Wildermyth very accessible. And there were a couple of ways they did that I didn't really pick up on until they pointed it out to me. Simple things like there is no inventory management in Wildermyth. Your characters, they collect gear, but as soon as you get a cool new sword, you have to assign it to one of your characters immediately. And then it is a permanent assignment. You're never swapping gear Mass Effect style between all of your characters.
I did do that.
Right. That never occurs. You assign gear once and then never mess with it again. There's no currency in the game. There's no money.
No Wilderbucks?
Yeah, no Wilderbucks. You don't buy and sell goods. It's a streamlined RPG for sure, which I think could make it. Yeah, there's no skill trees. When your characters level up, they just give you, here's 4 skills, pick one. You're not long-term planning your characters. It is
it's Dark Souls.
I mean, in Dark Souls...
You put it in Dex, you put it in Vitality.
You don't even choose stats that way. It's more like active and passive abilities. They roll the dice, give you 4 random abilities, pick one every time you level up. Yeah.
Cool.
So it constrains your decision space on how you build your character. So it's a very accessible game in that way, which I think just further goes to highlight the storytelling, which is the main appeal of the game. And really, most people could jump in. It's not an intimidating RPG to start playing. There's a variety of difficulty options. You can custom tweak how hard you want to make just the battles versus the overworld portion, where you're dividing up your team and dispatching them in different directions across this big map. Yeah. Wildermyth, super satisfying. I think I'm going to let it breathe for now after I just finished 2 campaigns, but it's a game I would happily return to.
It's like Banner Saga?
Yeah, it's battles take place on a grid just like Banner Saga. It's turn-based. You bring a party of characters, a mage, a wizard. Mage and wizard are the same thing. Mage, warrior, rogue. I will highlight mechanically, because I haven't talked about battles in this game at all, because they're more or less what you would expect from this genre. So I don't really feel like they're that interesting to highlight, except for one thing. The mage classes are pretty cool in this game. They aren't your typical mage who, throws fire or lightning or heals the party. Instead, all mages in this game do what is called interfusion. What is interfusion, Heath? So mages possess objects in the environment in this game. So if you see a tree, you can interfuse with the tree. Or you see a stone statue, you interfuse with the statue. And then depending on what object in the environment you interfuse with, you get context-specific abilities with that object. So for example, if you interfuse with something wooden like a tree, you can often do a splinter blast, which is like an area of effect, shards of wood, which strips armor off of enemies. Versus a stone statue might be more straight damage if you interfuse with that. So when you go into a battle with a mage, what they're capable of doing is all about what is the surrounding environment like. You have to be very adapting on the fly with a mage. You don't have any reliable standbys. You don't know that, yes, I'm a DPS mage. It depends on what kind of room you're in. And that flexibility with the mages and pivoting on the spot, that's pretty cool. So that's the one mechanical innovation in the combat that I felt was worth highlighting.
What if you're near? I'm just trying to think of. What's the likelihood this is going to come to Epic for free?
Ooh, I couldn't say. I haven't launched the Epic Game Store in over a year. Probably.
You're lost.
I know, right? They give away so many games.
Because I think this is right up their alley as far as Epic giving away whatever it's like terraforming Mars or just like
they just gave away Gloomhaven for free.
Other RPGs. I got Darkest Dungeon for free.
Right. This is a small game. Epic could totally buy the rights to distribute it for free.
Yeah, that's what I'm holding out on.
Yeah, you dig this game.
What's the likelihood Mark Brown's going to talk about Wildermyth?
Ooh, I feel like it should be Mark Brown bait, but it's been out for over a year, and I don't think it's come up on his channel, so maybe it passed him by. I don't know.
He's too busy selling out to big magnets.
He just had a video recently for the first time in a while that I watched.
It was the 15 somethings?
Yeah, sure. Oh, it was how do developers balance their games.
Oh.
Yep.
It's the active reload one, right?
Yeah, the active Gears of War reload one.
There you go.
Cool. That's all I had to say about Wildermyth, a game I give 2 big thumbs up to. And let's pivot over to you, Heath. What else you got for me?
Oh, Heath Scott. I let my brother buy LA Noire on my Steam account.
Okay. I feel like you obviously owned LA Noire back in the day.
Yeah, on Xbox.
On Xbox, yeah. Got it.
That was like insert disc 2.
Yeah.
If you can recall.
Remember when games would ship on multiple discs?
Yeah.
Those were crazy. Now I don't even have a disc drive.
Right.
How times have changed.
No, I ain't done nothing. Like I said, I put like a full, like, in the same amount of time it took me to beat Inscription, I beat Better Call Saul.
Yeah. I've got a real quick one here because my opinion is still pending because I'm only a couple episodes in. I started that Cyberpunk Edgerunners show.
Oh, everybody's been talking about that.
Yes, this is the Netflix anime from Studio Trigger, an animation studio known for its like very over-the-top, boisterous animation. Very action-heavy, very gory.
Oh,
and
they make Attack on Titan.
They have not.
Oh.
They made Pro Mare's a movie they made. They did Kill la Kill. I think that was their first thing they made.
Yeah.
Anyway, Studio Trigger teamed up with CD Projekt Red, creators of Cyberpunk 2077, the video game, to make an anime adaptation set in the world of Cyberpunk. I don't think it touches on any of the events in the game. I say that having not played the game yet.
How many little girls holding 2 guns are there?
At least one. I've seen that in the trailer.
Yeah.
I am only 3 episodes in, but it immediately grabbed me. I am super entertained. It really immerses you in the world. It uses all of the technical terms like corpos or street kids. And they have a specific word for currency in the universe.
Yeah.
These are all things I'm sure I would have been familiar with had I played the game. Your main protagonist, he comes from a lower class background, but his mom goes through hell and high water to enroll him in like a prestigious university so that he has a chance of climbing the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
And immediately depressing, like things go so bad in the first episode. And then you dive into the show proper and he starts to learn about the underworld or like the criminal underground of Cyberpunk 2077 and Night City. And I'm sure it gets crazier from there. Every episode ends on a huge cliffhanger. Just really makes me want to keep watching it. I think this just further cements the trend we've been seeing where video games have a tumultuous history of being adapted into movies and television. Just look at...
We're going to talk about
We're
going to
talk about it. But it seems like animated adaptations are the way to go. There's so many good ones now. We've got Cyberpunk. We have...
Riot Games is
Arcane. For League of Legends was a big hit last year. The Castlevania series is just rock solid. Yeah, Netflix funding video game animated TV series.
They've yet to strike out.
So maybe that's the way to go. Continue to animate video games. And don't even rehash the plots, because none of these series do that. They just tell original stories in these established universes. And
Anthological.
Yeah. Just expanding the world through a different medium.
Disco Elysium TV show when?
Was that announced, or am I
it was.
making that up in my head?
It was, right? It was teased. Into the Breach TV show when?
We probably don't need that. We probably don't. And then this has been a big boon for CD Projekt Red because Cyberpunk sales are going way up for the game.
Yeah. And people are like, is now the time to buy?
Right. I think they just announced...
And the answer is maybe.
The game is in a much better state?
After they rehash the combat.
Oh, really? Do you not care for the combat?
No, it's getting... I mean, they are reworking it.
This is announced.
Correct.
I know there's going to be one big DLC expansion that is announced.
Mm-hmm.
And they announced they recently passed 20 million copies sold of 2077.
What is that, like 5% of Wii Sports' total sales?
I mean...
Dude, Wii Sports sold gangbusters.
Well, yeah, but it was a pack-in bundle with the Wii. So for however many Wiis there are out there, there's that many Wii Sports.
Yeah. They should have pack-in bundled Cyberpunk with the Game Boy, or with the Wii.
Yeah. So yeah, that's no deep insights to this show, but based on 3 episodes, I'm loving it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't watch it with kids around, because it's...
Oh, can you customize your genitalia in the TV show too?
You can't customize it, but it's definitely on display.
Okay.
All right. That's everything I've been up to.
Great.
So how about we take a little break, come back with some news, because there's some funny news going on, right?
Yeah.
All right. And we're back.
Hey.
Which fun news story are we tackling first, Heath?
Well, hot on the tails of Cyberpunk's on-screen adaptation, the Super Mario movies teaser was shown to the world.
Pretty long trailer for being quote-unquote a teaser.
Yes. To generally positive acclaim.
Yeah.
Chris, you speak about video games on the regular.
I sure do.
Give us your unrelenting first impressions of the Mario movies presentation.
Sure. So...
Chris, known Despicable Me superfan.
Yes, what's the studio name?
Illumination.
Illumination.
Bringers of Secret Life of Pets. Friggin' the Burger King movie. You know?
Yeah, so... It's not like I'm deeply emotionally invested in the characters of the Mushroom Kingdom and their plight, but...
How can you say that to Thwomp and Chain Chomp?
Yeah, it's not like I was welling up when I saw Mario debut, but I think it's an attractive film to look at for sure. Jack Black does a good Bowser.
No.
I mean, it did sound like Jack Black.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I feel like Jack Black and Bowser, it does still sound like him, but I can suspend my disbelief. And yeah, Mario does sound like Chris Pratt.
I had less of an issue with Chris Pratt's voice than I did Jack Black's voice.
Interesting. I think I'm the other direction.
But Chris Pratt is... Maybe I'm just snowblind to Chris Pratt because I like how vanilla his voice is. I don't have an issue with Mario not being mega Italian. as much as I would also like that. It's like chocolate and vanilla. They're both good flavors.
Yeah.
Bowser sounds like Jack Black doing Bowser.
I see.
Bowser needs to sound closer to Rex.
Oh, Rex the Krogan from Mass Effect?
Yeah, he needs to sound like a Krogan.
Yeah, I suppose.
He's got the mouth for it.
His voice isn't as deep and gravelly as one might suppose it should be.
And somebody pitched it down, and I listened to that Twitter clip, and I still didn't care for it. There needs to be snarls in the undertones.
All right, you might be selling me on the fact that there's room for improvement.
I'm a Bowser purist more than I am a Mario purist, which I never thought I would be until I saw this teaser.
Let's see. The one dynamic I'm a little curious about. So it seems like they're going for the pretty generic Mario is a fish out of water. Oh, he's been transported to the Mushroom Kingdom.
Well, yeah,
this is all new for him.
He was doing like a Mr. Rooter job, like plumbing job, and then he fell in a pipe.
I'm curious what they're going to show of the real world. And like, will the movie open live action? Where it's like crisp.
It's New Donk City. Everybody's like real human proportions, but Mario's still like this soft.
And I'm curious because at the very end, the end stinger was they showed Luigi running away from some dry bones. I'm wondering, in this version of the universe, is Luigi going to be Chris Pratt's brother? Well, are they siblings?
Oh.
Does Luigi gets transported? Because it only shows Mario appearing in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Luigi is less fish out of water.
How does Luigi get there? Like, did they both get transported at the same time? What's going on here?
Luigi, much in the way that Mario gets called to do a plumbing job at somebody's house. Luigi gets called to do a job at a house, and he walks to the wrong address, and it's a haunted mansion. And then he falls into like a bottomless, I don't know, the floor opens up, and he gets sent to scary boob Mario Kart map.
So yeah, I'm most curious about the relationship between the titular Super Mario brothers, I guess. How do they connect in the film?
I was delighted that Keegan-Michael Key's Toad, as much as we all thought it was gonna be like, like squeaky Toad. No, he does a great job.
Yes, for sure. No complaints about Toad's voice.
Yeah.
And then we have yet to see Princess Peach.
Yeah.
And I wonder how deep of a cut some of the characters they'll show will be.
What, you think Bowser Jr. is going to have like that's my mom, and then Bowser's going to have to like talk him?
We're going to see some Shy Guys for sure. Yeah. But will we see Birdo? Will we see Yoshi?
They don't dare show Birdo.
All these questions I have. I'm not sure I will be incentivized enough to see this in theaters, but should the opportunity fall into my lap, this is a movie I'm willing to watch.
We will ask all of our relatives with young children what they thought of it.
Yes.
And base our impression solely on vicarious viewing and YouTube clips that rise to the top.
Of course.
Of subreddits.
The best way to consume movies.
That's how I do it. All right, moving on.
Moving on. Let's talk graphics cards. CEO of Nvidia, Jensen, he took to the stage. Once again, deja vu, Heath. A new generation of graphics cards is launching. We're back. I'm in the same situation I was in 2 years ago. I've got my money ready to go. The question remains, will I be able to buy them this time? We'll find out this week. The very first ones start coming out on October 12th, I think.
So how high are your sights set? You're just looking for a car. Are you going for like future proof, knowing how the supply is so low and that you don't want to have to deal with this problem again for another 3 years? Or are you just trying to get a card that makes your so expensive HDMI cord the limiting factor?
Yeah, I'm of mixed opinions on this. I think I might just bite the bullet and buy the newest flagship card. Only
because you already have the sunk cost that is.
At this point, I am a living representation of the sunk cost fallacy because I just acquired this big new TV that's capable of 4K at 120 hertz. And my current card doesn't even have the right kind of HDMI port to interface with the TV to get its full feature set.
Right.
So I minimally need a card with
A
HDMI
3090.
2.1. Yeah. But I might just go whole hog, buy the best thing. People are saying the tier right below the flagship card, they've priced it such that the price to performance ratio, the value is apparently only in the best card. So they're going to try to get you that way to just pony up the extra couple hundred you spend apparently makes a big difference. It might be overkill, especially since I'm playing Wildermyth, a game that
hideous graphics.
That looks like it could exist on a Flash website. But no, I've been purposefully pushing off highly demanding games in anticipation for this upgrade that has been in the works for 2 years. I've been hoping to eventually buy a new graphics card. Yeah, the fact that the most expensive best card is launching in a couple days versus I'd have to wait even longer for them to launch the moderately priced ones.
Oh.
Those are a month down the line, and then maybe another month down the line for even more options to become available. It's just the combination of price to performance maybe being best at the top and also the timing factor. I'm done waiting, Heath.
You win, Nvidia.
You win. You got me. My only hesitation.
Wait, so finish what you're saying. Your hesitation.
My hesitation. I don't know if you've seen any like size comparisons. The flagship card, the 4090, is gigantic.
It's the size of my lap. It's 14 inches?
It's comically large.
It's 14 inches?
Let's Google its dimensions. Google RTX 4090 dimensions.
Metric.
Metric system.
It's a foot long.
It's a foot long.
This is a $5,000 foot long.
It's $1,600. Which is crazy considering like that's what I spent to assemble my first computer.
So how dwarfed is my graphics card by today's standards?
Physically or computationally?
Yeah, computationally.
Go to comparison.
Yeah, okay. RTX. I Google image metric to inches.
Yeah, RTX 4090 versus, do you have a 1080 or a 1080 Ti?
I had a 1080 Ti? I'm not even on the scale anymore.
No, you need to type in 1080 Ti. And then like a user benchmark website will give you the comparison.
All right.
I also have a 1080 Ti, so this is what I'm coming from. This card will also have the advantages of NVIDIA's DLSS 3 AI frame interpretation software, machine learning stuff.
What does that get you?
Just know that gets you even higher frame rates because an AI can compute them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so the raw processing power, I don't know, creates however many frames per second. But an AI, NVIDIA's proprietary AI software can go in, assess what frames should look like between the two frames that are actually being rendered, and then insert them.
Am I gonna even notice that this will look different? Because when I go to the mall and I see the wall of TV screens, I can tell the difference between screens that are running above 60 and ones that are running at 60.
Sure.
The smoothness of north of 60 is it just
desirable.
looks like money. Yeah.
Yes.
Is this going to look like money?
I mean, it very much depends on what display you have it plugged into.
Oh.
If you plug it into a CRT, I don't think you're going to notice a difference. But given the fact that I had this 77-inch TV I'm eager to use, yeah, the sunk cost fallacy, it's prompting me to pay up big time for this. What were my closing comments going to be? The card is massive. I'm going to need to... It's such a power hog. I need a new power supply.
Oh, like mine? I forget what mine is.
Because I think I have a 750 watt power supply.
I was going to say 700 watt.
And they recommend at least 850 watt, but to err on the side of caution, I might go for a 1000 watt.
Kilowatt.
A kilowatt.
Oh my God.
It'll be very interesting. I feel like I don't know, this is maybe just naive optimism that I can get this on launch day, because it seems like demand is lower than it was 2 years ago with cryptocurrency crashing.
Right.
And the launch base price is higher, so that will price people out of the market.
Prohibitive.
Yeah, it's prohibitive. You need to be insane like me.
Yeah.
And when we tune in on episode 77, I'll let you know how that whole debacle goes.
Because it'll be on its way, not necessarily in your house.
I don't know. Depends when we record.
Yeah.
And depends if I even order one, if I can order
You're
one.
gonna try.
I'm gonna try, but will I succeed? That's a big question
I
mark.
feel like it's in the bag.
Well, thanks for your vote of confidence. Cool. So that is graphics card news. And some of the projects they're launching alongside it, they're doing a ray tracing version of Portal.
I did see that.
That looks cool.
Does it though? Like, I can't even tell what ray tracing looks like half the time.
I see. I've never ray traced yet, so maybe it'll be night and day. We'll see.
Yeah.
Cool. That was that story. We had another thing to say, right?
How come they don't immediately tell you how much sexier their product is compared to your product? It's because mine is just immediately dwarfed. I can't even read. Yeah, it's just comparing to last year's.
Yeah.
They should have like a so you can see the FOMO. I don't have FOMO right now because I don't know how hard I'm missing out.
Well, what you could do is then compare last year's to the year before that.
That's a lot of work on my part.
And then it's just exponentially the gap. No, go to YouTube and Google 4090 unboxing and just see how big it is.
Oh.
Yeah, look how that's huge.
Is that big? I don't know what to think.
It's big.
How dusty does this get?
I don't know. Probably as dusty as any graphics card.
How hot does it get?
Hot. I don't know.
On to Stadia.
Yes. A requiem for Google Stadia.
We hardly knew ye.
We hardly knew you.
You know what's funny?
Tell me.
So I use remote desktop softwares for work a lot of the time.
To remote in on your computer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the latency was not so bad that I once tried to play Frostpunk on my PC at work.
Yes.
From this machine.
Yes.
And I totally would have done it had the jump desktop remote protocol that I use, had that been able to capture my PC's audio.
You were without audio.
Because currently it can't. It can show the display just fine, but it's got no audio, which is kind of tricky for catching the audio cues in that game.
Yes.
But otherwise, yeah, because Frostpunk it's a strategy game. You don't need high zero latency. Yeah. So I was gonna do cloud gaming on my own.
Yeah, right.
And it's funny that I go to these lengths and now Stadia, the most high profile cloud gaming option, is finally dead.
It's joining the Google graveyard with Google Glass and Google Plus. And
we could have called this in the tens of episodes ago.
Tens of episodes ago, sure. When Stadia was launching, which we paid it a fair bit of lip service talking about it. This was back in 2019, I think.
Yeah.
I was bullish on it, only because I thought, in hindsight, I was totally wrong. But I just thought this elimination of the barrier of you need to buy a PC or a console to play a big AAA video game, and that barrier to entry being removed, you just pay a little bit for the monthly service and boom, you can play Assassin's Creed Odyssey on any device you have. I thought that could be a big moment in gaming of, lowering the barrier to entry. But that wasn't the case at all. I don't know a single person in real life that has ever engaged with Stadia. Do you? No. I feel like there was not very much social awareness that Stadia existed. The type of casual person that wouldn't have wanted to pony up for a console has never heard of Stadia, presumably. So they never bought into it. I think a service like this will someday exist that is successful, but Google was too early. Maybe internet infrastructure wasn't there yet, and maybe the pricing wasn't right. But to Google's credit, did you hear, now that Stadia is dying, they are refunding every Google Stadia purchase.
Yeah.
Including like hardware for Stadia controllers people purchased.
Oh, that's nuts.
They're returning every dime they made
Wait,
on
had
Stadia.
I bought a Stadia controller, maybe the build quality might not have been good, but like, wouldn't that have been like just easy money to like, now I have another like Bluetooth controller?
Yeah, I don't know how universal it is.
That would have been sweet.
Maybe the controllers are bricked now. Like, I don't know how.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. They're probably not.
No.
They can probably do other things.
I could
than
probably
just
play Outer Wilds with it on my PC.
Presumably, yeah. It would be crazy if you couldn't. But yeah.
That's nuts.
So good on Google for it would be scummy if like you paid for software that becomes just inaccessible to you. But they're paying back everyone who bought into Stadia.
Yeah.
All the guinea pigs who tried this experiment. And
all the early adopter guinea pigs,
Yep. And now it's gonna be just a memory.
A relic. It joins the Ouya.
Yes. Joins the Ouya.
Gonna be interesting when they eventually announce Stadia 2.
You think so? There's no.
Just once the infrastructure gets high enough, right?
I think they'd use a new brand name. Because I don't think there's any cachet behind Stadia.
No, but like the audacity.
Yeah, it was telling that I don't think we mentioned Stadia since it launched until now.
Right.
Yeah, it was just a non-factor in the gaming landscape.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that closes that chapter of this podcast, the Stadia days.
Boom.
Is that all the news? Did we do it?
Yes.
Very good. Then we'll take another break.
Wait, is Persona out yet?
I think later in October.
Okay.
Persona 5.
Yeah. Oh, later. Yeah.
And then I saw January is when Persona 3 and 4 get ported to all modern systems.
I don't have to play those, do I?
Nah. I mean, you won't be done with Persona 5 by then. I'm doubtful you'll have started it by then.
Shut up.
All right, let's take another break and we'll return. See you then.
Oh, I played Nintendogs in an emulator. How is the dishwasher in your apartment? Does it have a spinny thing on the top or just the bottom?
I believe, if I remember correctly, it only has a spinny thing on the bottom.
Bailey and I are running into dishwasher not cleaning good enough dilemmas.
Dishes are coming out spotty.
Yeah, not just spotty, but there's like particulates on Pyrex dishes.
I see. How many spinny things does yours have?
Just the one.
Gotcha.
Although you're a proponent of like rinsing before you put it in there.
I do.
Yeah.
I love a thorough pre-rinse.
I was discouraged from doing. Yeah, you know those technology connections videos that I watch.
Yes.
Yeah. So like,
this is the heated driveway guy, right?
Heated driveway guy.
Or the pipes in the house.
Yeah, he loves a good heat pump.
Okay.
I've been pre-rinsing less since I watched his 40-minute treatise on it.
Oh, what was
maybe
the big
that's
cons?
No, he's just saying that,
It's
why
redundant.
waste your time? The old adage of like, oh, I can clean dishes even better than my dishwasher. And it's like, well, that's why you're.
I just imagine there's still particles and residue on the plates when I put it into the dishwasher. When it's spitting the water all around, those particles are going to be in the mix there, right?
And then it drains the pre-washed water
I just want
fills
them,
it again.
I don't even want them in there. I want to get those out of there. I justify it to myself, yeah, there's the time expenditure, but my water bill's lumped into rent, so I can just pre-rinse those for days.
Oh, you can have your water bills lumped into your rent?
Yes.
Is my water bill lumped into my rent?
My water is covered. I can take the longest showers I want.
Why don't I just sell gallons of it?
Bottle it up.
Yeah.
Have a whole cottage industry.
Why can't I? and then I'll just like use a drill to like wind back the meter so it doesn't look like I'm consuming as much.
No, I pay for my electric and my internet, but water is my one freebie. I can use as much of that stuff as I want.
Oh my gosh. Clean my car. Anyway, and we're back. You wanted to talk about Overwatch 1 and how it's dead now?
Oh yeah. Overwatch 2 is a thing now.
So Blizzard came out with Overwatch 2, and it's not a true sequel. It's just like a supplanting of the first one.
They sunsetted Overwatch 1. No longer exists. There is only Overwatch 2 now.
Which is free to play and digital only.
Right.
Any copies of Overwatch 1 that might be available in your local GameStop, I don't think they're even allowed to sell them to you.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think they might have to like destroy them because the servers aren't available anymore.
I would assume if you downloaded it, it would launch and you're in Overwatch 2 now.
Yeah?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I haven't looked that much into it.
But also,
I have looked into
who's buying Overwatch on disc in 2022?
Friggin' dinosaurs. Maybe there's some gamers in Nebraska that don't have the wireless capabilities
to play this online-only game.
So they're just doing bot training mode. I don't know.
Target practice.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about the diversity character tier list?
Sure,
scandal.
But this is a scandal I know nothing about.
Oh, no. Chris, we talked about this, surely.
Oh, we did? About Overwatch?
So one of the controversies that came out during the development of Overwatch 2 was that there was an internal memo that ranked each character in an effort to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion amongst their roster. They ranked the characters based on those attributes.
That's interesting.
So
how you would go about
depending on your skin color, you scored either a 10 or through a 0. Depending on your gender and your sexual orientation. And it revealed some biases.
So gender, that's funny. It's like 50% of the population is one gender and 50% is the other gender.
So amongst the Overwatch cast, if you are male, you score a 0 for gender.
For how diverse you are.
Right, honestly.
Which is funny to me because there's an equal number of men and women in the world.
Right, but this is just they're trying to encourage certain types of characters and discourage others.
Sure, yeah. I see where this is going.
The most recent character that they added was a Canadian black lady with a bit of a cyborg legs, maybe just her legs.
Yeah.
And that scored points in nationality. No, actually, like Canadian nationality scores low on the thing.
Yeah, I'd assume it's Canadian. This is just my random presumption. Yeah. Is Canadian nationality just like ever so slightly more diverse American? Or,
right.
Yeah.
The highest scoring nationality, I think, is like Egypt.
Okay.
And other places that the developers in Irvine, California find exotic.
Right.
So, you know what's interesting, though, in terms of ethnicity, all of the Asian ethnicities are in the A tier, except for Korean, which is in the B tier. And you know why? Because at Blizzard, Koreans are ubiquitous among their StarCraft player base.
Sure.
So that's less exotic because it's like, oh, we know those Koreans.
Really?
They're playing our other game. But but those like Mongolians, that's a whole, you get more points to you.
What did this document look like? Was it all text?
You are
or was
totally in the dark here.
Were there infographics?
Yes.
It's a tier list?
It had like a compass. Overwatch diversity chart.
When did this happen?
This has been all over the joint. Yeah, look at they're scoring it, right? So black people are less diverse than Arabs.
Well, I could have told you that.
What?
No,
But
this
yeah.
is crazy.
No, they totally went hog wild, and this was meant to be like internal.
Right. This definitely seems like the type of thing that would leak.
What was the one other thing that I wanted to talk about?
Oh, you
before?
said you emulated.
Nintendogs.
Yes.
Yeah, so Tristan's birthday is 2 weeks from today. And I wanted to be the cool brother-in-law, future brother-in-law, and get her, because she has Switch games.
Yeah.
I've already gotten her all the best Switch games, Brain Age. So I wanted to get her Nintendogs, but she doesn't have a DS.
Sure.
So I was going to use an emulator.
Yes.
The problem with emulating Nintendogs is the microphone capabilities.
Are lacking.
Chris, which Nintendogs did you play, and how hard did you go into the Frisbee minigame? Did you get the master level?
I'm afraid not, Heath. I've never played Nintendogs.
Your loss. How many of your friends played Nintendogs?
None that have admitted it to me.
Wow, this is completely... All right.
Yeah, I do not have the cultural touchstone here for Nintendogs.
Well, when you fire it up, you give your dog a name. The fun way you give your dog a name is by speaking into the microphone, and the dog literally just like, huh? It walks to the screen, and you can use your stylus to pet them.
And will it retain
increase
knowledge of the name if you use it again?
Their S rank. Yes. It remembers the waveform.
Okay, cool.
So as long as you say Seamus, it'll be like, "Ooh," and then walk up to you. Problem is, when you use this emulator button, it mapped the microphone to a keystroke, which was the equivalent of like a single tone of like 100 hertz.
Okay.
So Bailey, trying to have fun with her nice doggy game on my laptop, was saying the cute dog name, and then it would repeat back to her. It's just like just a buzzing noise.
Yes.
And it was up to me to try to fix it. I tried a different emulator that like did manage to record your voice, but it pitched several octaves down. So it would be like Rufus, you know, and then the dog would be confused and be like, maybe that was just a car passing by.
Yeah.
Was that actually my name? So I don't know how I'm going to be able to get this, because the way that the microphone emulation in like Zelda games, you were meant to just like blow on the microphone and that registers an input.
Yes.
And so like mapping it to a keystroke that's like to a particular buzzing worked, but not for Nintendogs. If anybody listening who loves to emulate Nintendogs and is willing to risk jail time. Well, did you hear that other story about Pokemon?
No.
So the Pokemon community managers were like, we want to have an event with a prize pool and stuff like that. We were going to do a Nuzlocke. You know what a Nuzlocke is?
I certainly do not.
Chris, you play video games.
What are these terms you're throwing at me?
Okay, Nuzlocke is, I forget what the etymology is, but if your Pokemon faints because it runs out of HP, you take it to the Pokemon Center and Nurse Joy heals your Pokemon, right?
Sure, I'm with you so far.
Yeah, in Nuzlocke, if your Pokemon faints, it is dead.
Oh.
You cannot revive them.
Permadeath, okay.
Right. And you're only allowed to catch the first Pokemon that spawns in a given region, not just patch of grass. And so you develop greater attachment to these guys. And these community managers were like, you know, this home rule set is popular amongst our player base. Let's have a officially sanctioned. No, says Game Freak. We consider Nuzlocke akin to hacking, like ROM hacks.
Okay.
And the community was like, well, you're not changing the code at all. It's just like fun rule set that like the community came up with. No, says Pokemon.
So this is just for my own clarity.
Just another way in which they're just complete dinosaurs.
How is the Nuzlocke rule set distributed? Is it code enforced?
User enforced.
So once you're
Pokemon that faint,
you're not allowed
to release
bring it.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's literal like board game house rules.
Yeah. It adds greater
and Game
stakes.
Freak was like not even a little bit.
They're like, never ask us this again.
Wow.
Community managers whose job it is to like know how players engage with the product.
But if it's just user enforced restrictions,
I mean,
there's
there are
nothing
other
Game Freak could do.
There are some Nuzlocke that do like randomization, so you it's like better. I don't know. There's maybe Game Freak was conflating Nuzlocke with randomizers that are also there to make the game more fun.
I see.
That's just what I heard. So
got it. Well, it's not the first time
Pokemon has had their head in the Earth's mantle so deep.
Yeah, they're kind of tone deaf for sure.
All right, that's everything I got.
All right, that's the real end of the news. Yeah. So we'll actually take a break this time.
No, I mean I'm gonna shove Nintendogs into what I've been playing and just make it cohesively.
Oh, all right, it'll all sound great, I'm sure. I'll take a break and we'll come back with gaming taste talk. Yeah. Welcome back. Our conversation topic for today, Heath and I are going to dive in with some concrete examples of games we feel illustrate our video gaming taste. The reasons we play games, what we admire about the medium, things we really appreciate when games include them, features or gameplay aspects. In some ways, this is kind of an amusing segment to be doing on episode 76 because for listeners who've been with us, you know what we like already. This should have been like a single-digit episode, perhaps. But we're doing it now. And I think it is a little more worthwhile to do for video games just because there is a myriad of reasons people can choose to play a video game, whether they use them as an outlet for socializing with friends or they're really into the competitive side of gaming and want to test their mettle against opponents, or they just want the escapism of exploring a different world. That's kind of unique to games. There's just so many reasons someone might approach a video game, and we feel like this could be a way to kind of hone in on why we enjoy games by giving you some solid examples of certain games and what we like about them, versus, I don't know, two fans of fiction. If you're a fan of horror and suspense and your heart is pounding, versus a fan of fantasy novels who wants to be immersed in a foreign world. At the end of the day, they still are coming to books for a compelling story, where the reasons people come to games might be a little bit more diverse than that. So that was my preamble about our gaming taste segment. Heath, did you approach this topic similarly?
Yeah, not to leak it, but I got some distilled.
Oh, you have visual
aids. Just I put my thoughts on paper. I have 4 categories.
Very cool. I have personally brought 5 games along. It was really tough narrowing it down, but I have 5 games that I'll mention that I feel that if someone were to play these 5 games, they would have an understanding of why Chris enjoys video games. Okay. That was my goal, kind of.
Yeah.
Would you like to do the honors, Heath?
No, you should.
No.
You should
okay.
Start the template.
Sure. All right. Now, I think it would make more sense for whoever goes first, which it sounds like me. I'm going to go through my whole list and just knock it out so we don't cross the streams.
Good.
Yeah, if the wires were crossed and we alternated, you maybe wouldn't get as a cohesive a picture of what we're trying to paint here. So, yeah, I've got 5 games that I feel illustrate my taste when it comes to video games. This was a tough list to make. In fact, I'm still waffling on one of the entries, which one I put in. And there are some snubs here. A few games you would expect, because Chris talks them up so often that you'd think they were shoo-ins for the list.
They're shoo-ins.
But this isn't a top 5 games list. There's a distinction here. So what I had to, entries that made it onto my gaming taste list, they had to fulfill like multiple roles.
Oh, wait, you didn't choose like a mascot for each? I thought the assignment was pick the 5 games whose, like, if they were colors on a canvas, they would all paint the holistic picture.
That totally makes sense.
Okay. But you're saying that each one of these games fills multiple roles?
At times.
Okay.
I only have 5 entries, but maybe there are more than 5 things I really admire about what video games can do.
Oh, I only admire 5 things.
Okay. Then you wouldn't need to do any double duty.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of meant by that. So we're going to kick things off with an obvious inclusion. That's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Yay.
My favorite video game. Required reading to appreciate Chris's gaming tastes. It makes it on here to kind of demonstrate the potential size and scale that video games can bring to the table. It is a massive fantasy world, possibly hundreds of hours of runtime.
I spent like 15 hours in tutorial land.
Yes, yeah, just the tutorial is a significant investment.
I haven't even seen what the first real world is.
You've made it to Velen. Yeah, you
did?
Yeah, you did.
No, I clicked on a door and then it navigated to the map, and then I think I met to a loading screen.
Oh, well, but you met the Bloody Baron, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's in the main world.
Okay.
That tangent aside, what impresses me so much about Witcher is that while it has the immense jaw-dropping continent-sized scale, it doesn't...
It's literally the continent.
It's literally the continent. It doesn't compromise on the smaller attention to details. It boasts both quality and quantity. And what is so cool to me is the side content sells the world. So, it's a big RPG. RPGs often have side quests. These are little diversions that you can branch off of from the main plot and just do to your heart's content at your leisure. And I feel the attention to the character writing and dialogue, they don't compromise on quality on the side ventures. They're all so varied. Of my favorite side quests in all of video games, many of them crop up just originating from The Witcher 3. I feel like there are so many good ones. They immerse you in the world. They sell the environment as this living, breathing place that you were a visitor in. The world of The Witcher, it existed before you booted up the game and will continue to exist in your mind well after you roll the credits. It's just such a well-realized setting. And that's a real strength, I feel, of video games as a medium, as a physical space you can explore. It's not just the snapshots that a movie camera decides to point at a setting. You get to navigate to your heart's content. Also, it's a very conventional approach to storytelling. You'll play a little bit and then you'll have a cutscene, which is basically a movie where you see Geralt and the laundry list of characters he interacts with. The game comes with a character glossary, which probably has over 100 entries of this diverse cast. All of these characters pretty well realized, pretty well written. But yeah, it's a conventional story told in a video game. Oftentimes when story beats are happening, you are a passive observer, which we'll get into other games that approach storytelling in different ways on my list. But here's a super solid example of how a video game can tell like a TV series kind of story with a twist. That twist being the fact that there is a bit of a branching narrative. You, the player, will occasionally make choices that influence how the story develops. And the reason Witcher 3 edges out its other contemporaries, like Telltale games, like the Mass Effect series, the reason I'm partial to this approach to the branching storytelling is its focus on making choices is handled in a more realistic, less arbitrary way. So the classic video gamey thing to do when you're faced with it's a narrative plot choice here, a la Mass Effect. Do you want to take the Paragon or the Renegade choice here?
Uh-huh.
Or in Telltale, it's kind of campy. Like I'm thinking of episode 1 of The Walking Dead. At the end of the episode 1, there comes a choice where you need to choose which of two characters lives versus dies. And the scene slows down to a crawl, slow motion, and you can pan left to save one character or pan right to save another character. And it is super made crystal clear to you, hey, big plot beat happening right now. What are you going to choose? And The Witcher throws all of that conventional video game storytelling, decision-making wisdom out the door. Making decisions that affect the branching narrative in Witcher 3 is opaque. It's often not clear to you which decisions are going to be very big and impactful down the line. You're just Geralt choosing what he thinks is best in the moment. And sometimes you don't see those consequences until hours later. Even the decision with which main ending you get, there is never all right, are you going to choose the good choice or the bad choice? It's just, how do you, as Geralt, inhabiting this character, decide to flesh out your relationships with the other characters in the cast? That kind of determines the ending you get. It's not one climactic decision. It is the culmination of many small decisions, and that strikes me as much more realistic. Like in real life, once in a while, maybe you choose, hey, what college am I going to go to? That is...
Wait, there's the Paragon option,
right.
like University of Buffalo, or the Renegade option that it's Buffalo State.
Exactly. So once in a while in real life, big decisions are made very clear to you. But oftentimes, the big decisions in real life are only clear in hindsight. And that's how decision-making operates in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. It is not so cut and dry. It is a much more nuanced, opaque system that is, obscured from the player to a large extent. And I think that is so cool. The Witcher 3. Required reading if you want to understand Chris' taste in games. Moving on to number 2. And yeah, this becomes a monologue, doesn't it? If we don't alternate back and forth.
Well, that'll make it easier for the editor to distillate into a Chris video that's complete with visuals like Nate wanted or whatever.
Sure. That's true. Required reading number 2. It's Dishonored 2.
Woo!
Had to put an Arcane game on here. So.
Now with more rats.
Yes. So this is the stealth immersive simi game, the sequel to Dishonored, with which Heath has played, and I was very appreciative that he did.
Anton Corvo is back.
Corvo Atano. All right, the main selling point for Dishonored 2, why does it make it on the list? It is a shining example of what I love about video game level design. That's its call to fame. It features not one, but 2 of the best environments I've ever explored in games. That being the level called the Clockwork Mansion, which is this awesome, you go into an eccentric noble's huge mansion estate, but it is a giant puzzle box Rubik's Cube that is constantly reassembling itself, secret passages to discover, different configurations to the house, different combinations to tinker with.
Yeah. For the listener, it's not that the house starts red and then slow and transitions to blue, and now you gotta cover is over here when it was over there. It's way more verbose. You can, during the transition of the certain pieces of the building, you can slip through the cracks into a room that's moving underneath you and get to a secret area that then turns into the elevator shaft. Unimaginable it's why it's never been replicated sufficiently despite Deathloop's best efforts.
Yeah, can't say. Haven't played Deathloop just yet.
But you're waiting on that 4090.
I'm waiting on the 4090. But yeah, it's crazy. It's not even you just wait for you try out every combination. It's just like Heath said. This house is rearranging itself in real time, and there are cracks to explore. The whole building is alive. It's a big Rubes Goldberg machine. Fascinating to explore that physical space. And there's another level called Crack in the Slab, which I won't dive into too much for fear of spoilers, but weird time travel mechanics that you explore the same space in two different time periods at the same time, hopping between them. Just such creativity in how Arcane Studios has designed the physical boundaries of the areas you can explore in Dishonored. Plus, the setting is just so well realized. I don't think Dishonored 2 has a great plot. The characters are rather flat. But the best character in Dishonored is the world you get to inhabit. This is kind of touching on similar threads of Witcher. Witcher's world was well realized from a conceptual lore perspective, where Dishonored's world, I feel, is really cool to explore for its verticality, for like actually navigating around it. While the mainline Dishonored plot is lackluster, the lore accoutrements that surround it are well done. There's the cool occult stuff that like happens in the sidelines, and the Abbey of the Everyman military religious cult that tries to crack down on the people who worship the outsider, and just the weird ecology of the Dishonored world, like the blood flies and the dust district and the weather. There's lots of little books you pick up and read. It just incidental, flesh out the world's lore that you don't need to read, but you can. So I love Dishonored 2 for its setting, for its exceptional level design, and also for the fact that it's an Arcane game, the immersive sim aspect to it. I love the player agency afforded to the player, where you're provided an objective, often eliminate a certain target in this big level, and you're given a toolbox. It's like a sandbox. You can accomplish your goal however you see fit. I love the player freedom to approach missions stealthily, never being seen by guards, or going in guns blazing, like getting armed to the teeth, trying to use bombs and grenades. Or there's the supernatural aspect, all the cool outsider powers with Blink, eventually like stealing people's faces to impersonate them with powers in the sequel. There's Corvo, there's Emily. There's a fun decision right off the bat. Which power set are you going to choose in the game? The game is so free form with how you approach things, and I don't know why you would do it, but in the prologue of Dishonored 2, you can outright reject the mark of the outsider and play it as a normal-ass human being without any supernatural powers, because that's just Arcane's approach to game design. We may have built this entire suite of awesome powers for you to play throughout the game, but if you want to reject them and challenge yourself, you have that option too. So yeah, Dishonored 2, a game that you can really custom tailor how you want to play it, and that is a feature I find very admirable in game design. Moving on, required reading number 3 for Chris's taste. I had to put a Supergiant game on here, and I went with Hades, the roguelike Greco-Roman mythology isometric action game, Hades. Everyone loves it. I love it too. This is the example on my list of a game that just feels indecently good to play. Yeah, Witcher 3's combat, could take it or leave it.
I still haven't found a way to make my sword not red.
Right. It's everything else that I like about the game. Hades, it's just, I played it for over 100 hours and just repeating, trying to escape the pits of Tartarus over and over again. And it just immerses you into for me anyway, it's an example of a game that immediately puts me into a flow state playing it. It's a very arcadey action game.
Boons.
Yes. While a flow state is well and good, I want some tasty decision-making along the way. And that's where the immense variety of the systems come into play. It's a roguelike where you are on the fly each run, each iteration you try to escape. You're building your play style on the fly. And that is dictated by which randomly generated boons appear to you, gifted to you by the gods, which are this eccentric cast of characters that are all very charismatic that you always are interfacing with. So, yeah, despite the main appeal being mechanical in Hades, there is still a fun story to interact with, which is important to me in games. I do like to see how games incorporate storytelling in new and interesting ways. Witcher was a very traditional a story told in a traditional format with cutscenes. Hades takes a different tact, that being story is only doled out kind of. It's a very segmented game. You've got your escaping, and then your reward at the end of a failed or successful run is you return back to the home base of the House of Hades, and then you get your story reward, where you talk to characters that you've met and advance the plot between runs. And yeah, that marriage of video game storytelling in a roguelike, a genre known for just being purely mechanical, I felt like that was a combination that we didn't know could work, but Supergiant found a winning formula. So hats off to them there. Yeah, Hades, just great gameplay feel, infinite replayability. I have stopped playing it, but I sometimes get the hankering to go back.
They have the same negative modifiers that Transistor had.
Yes,
you can make the bad guys stronger.
You can tweak. Yeah, it's a risk versus reward system. You can tweak the difficulty to make it harder on yourself and potentially get greater rewards. Plus, it's just an example of a game made by a small team on my list with an impeccable sense of style, great artwork, a great soundtrack. Darren Korb, what a talented guy.
Oh, we love Darren.
Yes.
Friend of the show, we wish.
We wish. And that's Hades, a game that just feels oh so good to play and shows how a similar gameplay loop, you try to escape every time, but it shows how just tweaking the variables of the run in a roguelike game can keep it perpetually fresh.
On to game number 4.
That's right. Game number 4 is Total War Warhammer 2, actually.
Woo!
So this fulfills the role of my love of strategy games. It has both turn-based strategy, the overworld campaign map that you manage your cities and your economy and your trade routes and your diplomacy with other factions.
Sometimes no economy if you pick the skeleton guys.
Right. And it also has real-time tactical battles when your armies clash and you try to do the flanking maneuvers or hide your skirmishers in the forest or what have you. So yeah, both the grand strategy, long-term planning appeal and the shorter-term tactical skirmishes. Every flavor of strategy is on display here. As a big fan of strategy board games, of course, that would also appeal to me in a video game. So that was one reason it made it on the list. The other was
is the Cathay.
I have not played with Cathay yet. We talked about, with the Witcher 3 entry, how games can tell a traditional narrative, but lets players put their spin on it with choices.
Oh, yeah.
Now, here's where...
Build your own narrative.
Have an emergent narrative in games. Something kind of unique to this medium, where when you boot up a campaign to play Total War Warhammer 2, or any Total War game, the events that happen in the game, it's just a whole bunch of interconnected systems that your brain fills in the blanks and creates this overarching campaign narrative. This is kind of similar to what happens in Wildermyth as well, but not on my list because I only had 5 entries. So when you build up rivalries with the colonist empire faction in fantasy South America that's trying to establish a foothold, and they keep harassing your borders, and you build up this big rivalry, and you eventually send them packing back to Europe. That's a cool thing that happens to you. That wasn't written, that wasn't necessarily planned to happen, but by the decisions you make in your game, where you expand your borders, which factions you come into contact with, whether you try to have peaceful relations with them or you try to take their land from them. That's all dynamic.
How emergent.
That's all driven by your choices, and it's personalized stories you get to take home with you at the end of the day. And I feel like games that can tell emergent stories well and pump them out and have a lot of variety to them, that's a real strength of the medium, I feel. So I had to have a very dynamic and emergent storytelling game on the list.
What were the vampire guys that didn't know when to quit?
Oh, yeah. It might have been the Vampire Count faction. Yeah. A bunch of undead, like barons and baronesses.
Their ships just kept coming back.
Yes. Yeah. I'd have to revisit my
fond memories.
But boom, there was Total War Warhammer 2. Not to mention, the game is just packed to the brim with content. That could be a desert island game for me. So
that's another list we got to make.
That's another list. Good. Yeah, we're just coming up with ideas.
So many lists.
All right. So we covered a game with traditional storytelling. That was Witcher. We covered a game with emergent storytelling. That was Total War. We covered my love of great level design. That was Dishonored. And we covered my just great game feel. Could play it endlessly. That was Hades. For my final entry, so let me give you the cascading flow chart of how I chose my final entry, because it wasn't something I intended. At first, it was going to be Inscription. Because it was going to be like, I really like an experimental game that tries to break the fourth wall, does something very unique. And it would also have been an homage to my love of tabletop games, because you're playing this like card game in Inscription. But then I realized, oh no, while it is covering my experimental game bases, I will have somehow created a list with no Japanese games on it. And part of understanding Chris's taste is my affinity for Japanese developed games. So Inscription got booted, and it was going to be Nier Automata, because a very weird experimental game by Yoko Taro that does some crazy, unique ideas, and it's very Japanese. So that was going to be a shoo-in.
Yeah.
But then I realized what needed to kick Nier Automata off the list
was Nier Replicant.
No. If I included Nier Automata, all of my games would have been combat-centric. All of them would have, your main way of engaging with the game is fighting something. And I feel like, no, it's important for me to highlight the big potential of non-violent video games.
Non-violent, Japanese-developed.
Fourth wall breaking, experimental. So I needed, my entry to cover the Japanese experimental non-violent game is Danganronpa. So I chose Danganronpa. If I had to choose one as a favorite.
Just do the big legendary edition, whatever.
Oh, sure. The big bundle that has all three. Sure, we'll slot that in here.
Cop out.
But I would maybe choose the third one as my favorite. That's V3.
Triple happy fun time.
Killing Harmony.
Yep.
So yes, Danganronpa, this big ensemble cast of characters, that's something I appreciate. The big ensemble cast that you spend a lot of time fleshing out over the course of this visual novel-y / murder mystery detective game. Mm-hmm. The ensemble cast is important because it highlights my love of games that you almost foster a parasocial relationship with the characters. Other examples of this would be like
9 doors, nine puzzles, 9 lives.
I was thinking Persona or maybe Mass Effect. But yes, you become so endeared to these characters. Also, it's a very subversive plot. Really messing with your expectations, even with the premise of the game. I won't go into it too far.
It's like multiple choice detective-y thing.
Certain things in the advertising of Danganronpa V3 are lies. The only other example I can really think of this is Metal Gear Solid 2. The marketing was intentionally misleading. And I love a game that is so willing to lie to the player, to completely break fourth walls at certain points. It really goes some places with the plot. Also, just the scenario writing for these murder mysteries is so creative. Like, these are some of the wildest detective goose chases you get sent on. So yeah, it's got great writing chops. It's very Japanese in tone and in some of the characters. It is... Oh, and yeah, there is no combat in Danganronpa. You do fire bullets. You fire truth bullets.
Yeah.
So the main gameplay of this game is a murder will happen in the story, and you as a detective will try to suss out the truth, and it culminates in a big climactic court trial every chapter where the main gameplay of the game is listening to testimonials and finding inconsistencies in logic or sussing out lies or, just trying to crack the code and eventually name the culprit, assembling all the clues together. It's a great kind of a puzzle that serves as the representation on my list of the potential of games to engage your mind and mechanically in non-violent ways. If I had more room on the list, that's where something like an Outer Wilds might have appeared. But I didn't have room. And it felt disingenuous putting Outer Wilds on the list just because that game, it feels so one of a kind. I don't think it really represented my broader taste. It's just this enigma of a game that I happen to love, but isn't emblematic of my taste in general. But yeah, that was quite the monologue. The 5 games Chris chose: Witcher 3, Dishonored 2, Hades, Total War Warhammer 2, and Danganronpa V3. You play those 5 games, and boy howdy, you know what Chris likes about video games.
You're suddenly Chris Ullman. Yeah.
All right. That was the Chris show for a while, but I am happy to give it to you, Heath.
I have no qualms with your picks. They're pretty good picks.
What was your least favorite pick?
Let's Total War Warhammer 2. And let's just piggyback off of that one, because I asked you earlier what constitutes grand strategy. And even though Total War is not a Paradox game, you would say that that's grand strategy, right?
Yeah, I think I would.
What? Because it's just like globe spanning, many units, resource management.
I don't know if there's a distinction between 4X games and grand strategy games.
Just a viewpoint.
Yeah, I guess. So there's a chance maybe it's 4X and not grand strategy, but I'll say it's grand strategy, damn it.
Well, I wanted to coin a term. I call it bland strategy because I like strategy games that don't necessarily require dozens of hours, although they can be. Chris, my most fond memories are the types of puzzle and strategy games where you only have to manage 3 units like Into the Breach. With the exception of the pilot that lets you send out little spiders.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah. I only like, like the first 100 turns of Civilization. When you get to like the very end of Civilization and you've already snowballed the competition, and like the espionage of the Cold War is kind of window dressing at that point. It's really only about like the first 3 cities you build, at which point you've already like made enough mistakes to be like, I could do just a way better run, and there's no positive feedback for you to like, there's no whale to give you a bonus if you complete this playthrough like in Slay the Spire.
Oh, right.
So I just redo the same 150 turns of Civilization every time.
Because that's where the early game decision making is the most consequential.
Right. Yeah, if you want to do a heat map of which leaders I play the least, it's the leaders that have the most late game abilities.
Got it.
The friggin' who gives you an additional spy? Like the Queen of England?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like. I'll pass on the Queen of England the same way the real Queen of England is passed on. Whoa! And then Chris, you can see just on my little mood board here,
yes,
like Frostpunk, and you say, but Heath, Frostpunk has hundreds of workers that you're trying to manage. Yeah, but it's on the scale of like one city, and it's just I've played it so often that I'm kind of like automating where everything's going. There's literal automatons in that game that reduce the scope of your it's not grand strategy, it's bland strategy. So I was dare I say my quintessential game to represent this category.
Yeah.
And partly just to, I mean, you can pin this on me trying to be obstinate as a foil of your well thought out selections. The game, well, the one of the 4 games I chose was gonna be Bookworm Deluxe.
Okay.
Partly because the reason I like these strategy games. / puzzle games. Did you call Into the Breach a puzzle game or a strategy game?
It's on the line. I would probably call it a strategy game.
That's why the oil and water is mixing here. But I like being able to turn something out of nothing. I like being able to synergistically make a god tier Vec destroying turn with just a simple move, shoot, maybe do nothing with that third one, because it's already
mission accomplished.
Baiting something. Yeah. Same thing with Inscription. I love taking my 4 cards because that's all it gives. No, 5 cards.
No one knows.
4. Wow, I'm actually tripping. 4. Maybe there's a boss battle with 5. Yeah. I love taking 4 cards and turning it into an amazing 1 + 1 = 3 turn that totally nets me so many gold teeth that I can then use to blah blah blah. And so I was gonna pin it on Bookworm because Bookworm was the puzzle strategy game I played on my Dell computer back in 2005.
Okay.
And that was the formative game that made me turn something out of nothing, just a jumble of words, and I'd be able to spell, squid for multiplier maximum. I think that Bookworm was a good choice to represent this kind of strategy category, while also paying homage to games that aren't in circulation anymore. They delisted that game. You can't play it anymore. You can play maybe a bootleg iOS version, but
Bookworm Deluxe is now abandonware.
It's gone. Yeah, they scrubbed it.
Surely there's physical copies, right?
Oh, yeah, probably really dated ones, but CD discs.
I wonder what happened.
I don't know, just PopCap is all play our Plants vs. Zombies instead.
I see.
So, nodding toward Wordle and nodding toward other games. My favorite part of playing Bookworm as a child was trying to get the high ranked, because it's got a fun, how Sid Meier's Colonization at the end of the game says you scored this many points, and it equates to, they named a school after you, they named a bench after you. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, they have a fun epitaph rank. New Civilization games, they'll say your leadership was equal to that of Hammurabi, Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, that's cool.
Ivan the Terrible if you scored lower. If you score lower in Colonization, you'll be named after a disease or an apple. But if you score high, you get named as a state. If you score low in Bookworm, you're apprentice librarian, copywriter. If you fail to advance to level 2 at all, you're a book burner. My goal as a kid was to find out what all of these were.
Yeah.
And I think I got to archivist or senior, rectory somebody. The highest one you can go is Bookworm Supreme. But I was like, because I was just at an age where I was like, I don't know what the difference between a thesaurus and a dictionary was. I don't know. But yeah, archivist, I was like, I don't know what that is. So yeah, I wanted to see what those were. So this is I'm just calling it bland strategy, and the reason the 13 Sentinels is on here is because of the mech game, where it's like not too demanding.
No.
And even like Into the Breach is not. Into the Breach is quite demanding.
Demanding, but it's still bite-sized.
It's bite-sized. Excellent point of view. So that encapsulates my love for strategy. But not too much.
Right.
Right, because
just a bland amount.
Friggin' total, like I.
You played Total War Troy?
I played. Yes, I did for the podcast,
and that was too big a bite of strategy.
Every grand strategy type game that I play, every XCOM game that I play, I just get get however many. I super bunny hop it. I lose interest. Or no, does he love Super Troy? I forget where George stands on grand strategy games.
We'll have to visit his channel to find out.
Yeah, hopefully he'll write in. Hopefully he'll write anything. He's been off
his
the grid.
uploads have been sparse this year. But maybe he's taking time for himself. The man deserves it.
No, he needs to. For my entertainment, he's got to put out as much as like a Tim Rogers, like a 6-hour video.
Yeah, we've never had gaps between our uploads.
Moving on. So that's Bookworm Deluxe for my first pick. My second pick is another game flavor that I enjoy. That give them the slip. So this is the rush that I get when I'm playing PvP multiplayer stealth environments. And I fool another player into like walking past the locker that I'm hiding in, or letting me walk up to their character in a disguise, and then before my disguise cooldown expires, I hidden blade get them, and I get a ×4 multiplier points wise. I get a rush whenever I do that, and I know Chris probably does too. You know, if you fly under the radar with a really good clue into crypto, and like the other team just has no idea, like that's the I get a cathartic, just like a primal lizard brain limbic rush whenever I do this, and partly that's due to like games like Dead by Daylight, where the music really ramps up because the murderer's right there, but the murderer like can't find your trait because you gave him the slip, and then he walks off, and you pop out and finish the generator. And granted, there's like a smattering of other games on. Chris, speak on the
sure,
the mood board I got here.
I remember, you did bring Monaco, What's Yours Is Mine, to the show once to discuss.
I did.
That shows up here. The Jackbox party game, Faking It, that like social flying under the radar. We've got a classic Batman Arkham Asylum that has great stealth segments to it. The one maybe black sheep of the family here, and you can explain your reasoning. Nidhogg pops up on Give 'em the Slip.
Yeah, that was a later entry. All the rest of these games had already been added, but the reason I included Nidhogg in this is because circling back to the feeling you get when you make a really hard read and like you're able to just dodge and get past your opponent in Nidhogg and break out into a sprint toward their goal line, and they have to like think fast whether or not they run off the other side of the screen to spawn ahead of you, or do they throw their sword, do they go chase? Like I got that feeling resonates in the same cloud of neurons as the stealth component one.
Yeah. So just for the unaware listeners, Nidhogg, this minimalistic fencing game, which is as much about bluffing and reading your opponent as your like raw reaction timing.
It's not the domination of your opponent like in a fighting game, whereas like, oh, I'm not going to include Street Fighter in this category.
Right.
But definitely like making a close call and just barely like dodging at the right second and then making a break for it. It's the thrill of the chase is where I add Nidhogg here.
And that's what distinguishes give 'em the slip games from just straight stealth games.
Right. Like Splinter Cell Conviction, partly why it's here. You remember the mechanic where if an enemy sees you, a ghost image is left. Your silhouette appears in like a silvery white.
Okay.
And you can like walk. You can like climb a pipe or jump out a window and still see where the enemy thinks that you're at.
Very cool.
And later like UAV signal detection enemy upgrades will ping your silhouette, and then they'll come looking for you wherever so you have to move on. And so like I think that materialization of where I was and where I go from here is just like a little itch of what it would be like if a game like Splinter Cell Conviction's levels were PvP. Because it's a lot, and then that's partly why Nidhogg would not be as thrilling if it were CPU based.
Right. The thrill skating by unscathed is amplified with real people involved.
Outsmarting other people is in a stealth capacity is what I will pay top dollar for.
Yes, and that's why Faking It appears for the social stealth.
Yeah. The last round of Faking It, where you have to write the text answers to what's your favorite restaurant, and you choose like advanced auto parts, and you have to be like, no, you see, like, and if you succeed, it's akin to.
You're dead in the water if you did that answer.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my. If I gotta pick a game for this one, I think I just do Assassin's Creed Brotherhood because that's the most cathartic of the.
Is that specifically for the multiplayer suite?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I think Ubisoft just sunsetted.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there was no way I was gonna fire it up for nostalgia reasons on like my 360.
Right.
That's give them the slip.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm talking a lot so far.
So far, your categories are really tracking.
Yeah. Okay,
I can totally see how these are very much Heath games.
We're halfway there. Okay, so the next one the next one is one that Chris talked about with it's subverting expectations.
Ooh, yes.
So Inscription appears again. 13 Sentinels appears again predictively because I know that there's more surprises in tail for 13 Sentinels.
Yeah.
In addition to what I can speak on.
Yes.
Outer Wilds was my strongest contender for this.
As the best representative.
I think like anything involving the Quantum Moon and its presentation and that those like it is just too strong to ignore in this category. I guess you could do like, and that like the ending of Inside.
Oh, for sure.
It's kind of fun. It pales in comparison to these other types of games where subverting their expectations is their whole thing.
Sure.
Like Frog Fractions.
Like that is the mission statement of Frog Fractions.
Yeah. Which I live for, but I will never play its sequel or what have you.
Right, which is not called Frog Fractions 2.
Right.
Like they commit to the bit. It's this innocuous game about fairies, I think.
Yeah, like something Princess Makeover, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I live for games that subvert your expectations, and it's sort of. It gives you shivers in Inscription when you're playing in the third world. Although can we really say that, because now the game starts with the 8 bits, right? If you hit a new game in Inscription, it's
after you roll credits.
Maybe.
Like, are you saying new copies off of Steam of Inscription you start in Act 2?
Act 2? I think I'm making that claim.
What?
I think I'm making that
No
claim.
way.
Yeah. They don't.
There's no way you don't start in the iconic spooky cabin.
I'll show you. I'll show you.
They've updated the game to change the order of play.
Or maybe that's only for me because I've already beaten it once.
It's got to be that way.
All right. I don't know because they added Casey's mod. Maybe once you get Casey's mod, it reorders the story.
I'd be baffled if that was the case.
It was problematic.
Like the opening of Inscription is so iconic. That's like what people are coming for.
Yeah, that's why it became a household name for some households.
Right. For the households in the know.
Yeah.
The cool household.
So, yeah, little else to say about this one without aside from just name dropping other games that have crazy subversions of expectations.
Right.
But just pick Outer Wilds and move on. And lastly, the category that Chris is itching to know is what was it? I forgot. Oh, job simulators.
Oh man, this is so on brand. You do love these games.
So, this is the part where maybe Chris and I are most dissimilar, where he's looking for special, like he reaches to video games to for their compelling stories as well as art, like brilliant level design and the craft of the actual software development.
Yeah.
I just like taking one package, bringing it to another place so I can get an upgrade to take two packages. Maybe this is the like reptilian brain number go up.
Even more so though.
Engine
even
building.
more than give them the slip.
Yeah, even more than give them the slip.
So, examples of job simulators that Heath loves
are Death Stranding. Like, I'm not playing that for the narrative.
Right.
I'm playing, and there's stealth elements in Death Stranding, but that's not why I play it.
Yeah, that's a side dish to the main appeal.
To the actually just taking my wibbly wobbly Jenga stack Norman Reedus across a rough landscape for relaxation purposes, and just to see the number of likes that I get from that voyage.
Yes.
To Animal Crossing, right? Just it's purely I want to unlock the flowers that you only get by crossbreeding a red one and a black one. Red Dead Redemption 2 appears here.
I can see why.
Mainly for the Red Dead Online component where you can pick a job.
Okay.
Be it like treasure hunter collector, which is just makes the treasure mappy part of it that much more verbose. I chose hunter, which I don't really care for the hunting, but I do care for when you get enough pelts and then you literally have to wagon across America from San Denis all the way to Armadillo if you want to get the really rich and then shoot the people that come and try to steal your pelts.
Yeah.
Just so you can get enough money to buy an even bigger wagon. That I do enjoy that in small bursts. Wilmot's Warehouse appears here. Just making it that much more orderly.
Yes.
And Papers, Please.
Right. A customs officer.
Yeah. So.
And of these games, would you say Death Stranding is the most representative?
I think Papers, Please.
Oh, okay.
Is.
Lucas Pope.
I think Papers, Please is the best.
Yeah, I mean that's all the game does is you are sifting through paperwork.
I could be doing another run through of Death Stranding, and go into a coma, and then wake from that coma, and then you tell me like Death Stranding 2 is out.
I think it's confirmed.
Yeah, it's in development. Yep.
Yes.
Heath, you just woke up from your coma. Oh wait, I can't wait to play all the new games. Tell me what's available. Oh, Death Stranding 2 is out, and then Papers, Please 2 is out. I'm reaching for Papers, Please too immediately.
Fascinating.
Just because the Lucas Pope factor is that much more potent a chemical X than the Kojima compass.
Yeah, the Pope is potent.
Yeah. I've missed that. I should have gone for that.
Could be
anyway,
the title.
Anyway, so that's Heath's roster of games. Whoa.
I loved that.
Yeah. So make of that what you will.
Heath is an amalgamation of bland strategy, giving him the slip, so having his expectations subverted, and a good old-fashioned job simulator.
Yeah.
So what is the hybrid game that combines these?
Inscription or Death Stranding?
Has the most overlap of all 4 categories. Yeah.
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 Fair enough. Well, hopefully our listeners now have a better sense of what Heath and I really look for in the games we play.
Of course, if I appear in any video game, that'll then supplant whatever these ones I picked.
Oh yeah?
If I get a voice line here or NPC there.
That consequential to you, huh?
I'm making a joke at my own vanity.
Got it. So Heath, I thought of writing this down. I had a good bit. I kind of forgot about it, where I was going to have this note written down on a piece of paper that I had closed and then passed over to you and said, open this when we're done with the segment. And what I was going to say was, I'll commit to playing a game, each of the games that define your taste, if I haven't already, so that I can better understand my co-host. But it sounds like I can't play Bookworm Deluxe after all. So I can't appreciate that part of your past. But here's what I'll say to you, Heath. I was already planning on, once I get that graphics card update, Death Stranding is on the docket.
Oh boy.
So that'll get me more into the Heath headspace.
I don't know how you'll survive.
And then I think I can commit to a Frostpunk as well.
I mean, you wait for the sequel.
Yeah, I want to know the series roots, where it came from.
Icy roots.
Yeah, how cold was it to start? How cold is it now?
It's cold.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll play those games to better understand Heath.
Yay! Or just play me a Nidhogg.
I'll learn so much.
And then like whiff and let me get past you, and then just look over at my expression, and I'll look like I just nutted or something. Because deep down, I'll try to conceal it, but I'll be like,
oh. All right,
that was 76.
76.
76.
Feel free to send us emails. We love receiving those. You can send them to email address mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
That's mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com. Do I answer this call right now? Oh, it's Dave. Oh. What's up, Dave? Hey. $10.24. Sick. Bye. That's funny. Wow. Dave's still working for Alex. That's funny.
Very cool. I have a I don't know how you feel about this infidelity I've committed, Heath. But
do you want me to stop recording?
No. I'm going to plug my other podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anyone out there happens to be just a real big fan of Chris for some reason, or for some real deep cut Mobius Tubes listeners, if you missed the Cardboard Corner, our retired board gaming segment that happened post fade out music, I have a board game podcast I'm contributing to. We just launched episode 1. Feel free to search for the Analysis Paralysis podcast. It is a board game show. I'm on it with 2 other co-hosts for episode 1, and I'll be appearing there from time to time.
Fun album art.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think it might have been AI generated.
Oh.
Just based on what you plugged in the words analysis paralysis.
Oh, I thought they were going for. Oh, really? Wow. I thought that was like an homage to Anatomy of a Murderer.
I hope I didn't just hype up this cool story that is inaccurate about our album artwork.
What's the Anatomy of a let me just movie poster. No. What is this one? Yeah, what is it? Anatomy of a Murderer. That's what I did. Yeah, I thought it was something like that.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it should be on all regular podcast platforms. In episode 1 of
it wasn't on Apple.
It should be now.
Okay.
The main guy forgot to hit submit. He typed up the request, but then missed a button click.
Gotcha.
But yep, episode 1 of Analysis Paralysis is out. We also talk about our board gaming tastes on that episode. Crossover between this and that, kind of.
What do you mean? I mean, that's... Yeah, okay, yeah, your taste. Oh, taste is in like the quintessential. Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I've got. What are you going to do after this show, Heath?
I'm going to eat, dude. And then we go to the Spirit Halloween store.
Oh.
You know?
Getting costumes?
You know, that's where the rest of the party is at right now. I should probably just do laundry and then, finish. I should finish 13 Sentinels while I'm alone.
Right.
So that no one can see me. No, that's literally the reason why it's not done yet.
Can't you play the Switch in handheld mode?
I can't, but yeah, but like...
You'll get too many questions.
I'm in the thick of it, yeah.
Got it. Well, we'll tune in next week and see where... next episode. I keep pretending like...
It could be next week.
It could be. Yeah. Going forward, if I line up one of these graphics cards, I'm going to have so many games I'm playing.
It's going to just be an explosion of frames.
Yeah, it'll be like 2019 Chris, the way he pumped out video games. All right.
You'll sound like you're running on a kilowatt power supply.
Yeah, maybe I will be if I plug in the wrong wire. All right. We'll catch you at the next episode. See ya.